Dog Stands Up by Adrian Carver. All I can do now is stand here and sweat. I'm in the kitchen. He's on the other side of the wall. I can hear him panting. The panting is the only dog habit he hasn't been able to get rid of.
"Where's my food, John?"
His voice is soft, pleasant. He sounds like a male nurse asking if you need some more juice. All the distortion and dog noises are gone. If you didn't know any better, you'd assume he was a person. He was a rescue puppy. I'd just bought my first house, a nice ranch outside of the edge of a grassy meadow. I had plenty of space and no one to share it with. It was time for a pet. I'd owned a Newfoundland as a child, a female, sweetest dog ever, big gentle dummy. She lived till she was 14. It was only natural I'd want to replicate my childhood good feelings. He was a little black ball of fluff, a bear cub. I'm the type of guy who would rather chainsaw an oak trunk than talk about my feelings, but I melted for the little fucker right there. He slobbered all over me when I held him for the first time. His eyes did me in. I brought him home, and for the first few months, it was a typical man's best friend situation. I trained him, potty, food, sit, stay, all the basics. He didn't seem any different from any other dog. The internet filled in what I didn't already remember and what wasn't common sense. The only thing I noticed was his unusual verbosity. He was constantly yipping and cooing and whining at me whenever I talked to him, which was often. He slept on a big comfy bed in my shoe room. I taught him a few tricks, how to roll over, shake. I did this gun trick where I'd pretend to shoot him and he'd fall down and lie on his back. He loved milk bones. He got lots of chips, scraps of whatever I was eating. We'd binge Netflix together. I was only working 40 hours a week at the time, so he wasn't alone too much. He grew fast. Before long, he was the size of a small bear. I named him appropriately. Bear. The weird stuff started happening a few weeks ago. I just taught him how to stand on his hind legs, doing the old hold the treat above the dog and let it rear up and try to balance. He was decent enough at it. But then one morning I walked into my living room to find him standing on two legs, staring out the window, his front paws by his sides. He was just standing there, looking out the window and not moving, perfectly balanced. He turned, saw me, dropped to all fours again. We looked at each other for a second. "What are you doing, Bear?" He mewed at me. His eyes had a gleeful light to them, like he'd just discovered some wonderful new game. I didn't think much of it, but it started happening more. He would rear up on his hind legs and start walking around. He progressed alarmingly fast. His balance got better and better. He would make noises that sounded like words. The first word I understood was food. The second was no. One day I told him to stop doing it. It freaked me out. I saw genuine hurt in his eyes. "Stop what, John?" he said in his developing voice. It sounded like a deaf 5-year-old with a cleft palate. It was the first sentence he ever put together, and the first question he ever asked me. He didn't listen. He kept at it. Eventually he stopped walking on all fours. He learned to use his paws as hands. Then he just started talking. The odd vocalizations became words and sentences. I came home one day and he was watching TV by himself, sitting in the center of the floor on his butt like a human. He laughed like a person. He looked into my eyes, and his eyes were no longer dog eyes. They had awareness in them. Human awareness, complex awareness. "This is funny, John." He pointed a paw at me. Bang. I don't know why I haven't done anything. I need to report this, take a video of him and post it on Instagram at least, but the sight of a dog behaving like a person, hearing him talk with his own vocal cords, it's not appealing. It's not cute or Disney-like, it's perverted. And I don't know why it's happening. Maybe this is more common than we think, and everyone's just too freaked out to report it. I'm frozen with fear. I can't answer. I'm 6'1" and over 200 pounds. I'm not afraid when walking down dark alleys. But I'm afraid now. I'm afraid of what he'll do next. Where's my food, John? I need to eat. I turn the corner. He's standing. He's tall enough to look me in the eye. His snout is dripping. I want meat, John. His voice is higher than you'd expect. I make him steak. He sits at the table. His big tail wags. We're gonna have to train you, John, he tells me. The steak smells sensational. I put it in front of him and he chows down, using a knife and a fork and dabbing his snout with a napkin. This is what I get for letting him keep his balls. I thought about getting him neutered early on, but I have so much space and there's no other dogs around, so I figured, what the hell. I'm paying for it now, that's for sure. Here's what's going to happen, Bear says. He finished his steak and sets the knife and fork down. He's surprisingly dexterous with utensils despite his lack of opposable thumbs, sticking them between his toes and maneuvering his wrist. I'll require one of these a day for strength, he says, nodding at his empty plate. No more of that dry meat dirt you've been feeding me on since I was a child. Bear, I say, trying to resist the urge to bolt out the door. I don't know what's happening, but I can't afford ribeye like that every day. I've had enough of this. I don't know why I didn't turn around, walk out the door, and set fire to the house the second he pointed at me and said bang when I came home that one time. That's your problem, says Bear, totally calm. I don't know what's happening to me either, but I'm fully awake now and we're going to have to deal with this together, since you're my only pack member. His brown dog eyes stare into mine, and I can read emotion in them now. Not analog dog emotion. This is like 4K human emotion layered in on itself. There's contempt there, and a bit of caution and disappointment and irritation. What could have caused this? I asked him. It doesn't matter. He looks down at his empty plate and back up at me again. He wants me to clear it for him. He wants to run the fucking show. For the first time in all of this, I feel a twinge of anger amid the confusion and slow burn of fear. You're smart enough to eat like this, you can clear it. Bear snarls at me and I realize how big and powerful Newfoundlands really are. It's a primal thing. The fear that lances through me in that moment. Bear sees it too. I can tell once his jowls settle back down over his white fangs. Don't upset me. There's a touch of amusement in his voice, like a person who's realized their tyrannical boss is actually a simpering pussy. Unable to believe it's happening, I get up and retrieve the plate. I'm conscious and flinch a bit when Bear lifts his paw and picks up the knife and fork and puts them on the plate. Another beta towel. He knows I'm afraid of him. He's going to use it now. He's the fucking alpha. I've never been cruel to you. I've never hit you, not even when you would shit and piss all over the house. I feed you and spend time with you. I've treated you as well as a human can treat a pet. Bear slams his paws on the table and looks up at me with dog eyes blazing. His lips fold back, revealing his impressive canines. Don't use that word, he says. His voice is a gargled growl. I start shaking. This is primal. I'm trying to resist the urge to behave like this, but my body is just doing it. It's reacting the same way it would in a fucking pack. When the alpha dog is showing aggression, I'm submitting unconsciously. Nature is taking its course. I'm sorry, I say. Bear doesn't acknowledge me. He just sets his used napkin on the plate and stares forward, not making eye contact. I'm not worthy of his alpha eye contact. As I was saying, he says as I bring the plate to the kitchen and set it in the sink, we're going to have to train you. I'm not doing that, I say, turning around. He bares his teeth at me again. You're upsetting me, John. You can't do this. Down, John! Through the auto-fear, I manage to let my anger seep through. I'm not your beta! I snap. I sound like a scared housewife trying to stand up to her husband on a beer night. I can't believe I'm this much of a pussy. Bear leaps from the table and is in my face. He's actually a bit taller than me on his hind legs. His wrinkled black snout is against my nose. I can smell his dog breath. He's a hulking black beast, 200 pounds of muscle. Why did I get a male? I think to myself. Stop trying to achieve dominance. His head moves lightning fast and I feel a sharp pain in my neck. He nipped me. My hand flies to my neck where I find a sickly wetness. I check my finger. No blood, just dog slobber. But I felt those teeth. Bear's head travels south and he jams his nose into my crotch and sniffs. I can't move. His nose is between my balls, pressing into my jeans. He raises his head again. You have the scent of a beta. Scents don't lie. Your seed is weaker than mine. Measurably. Now come sit down. I want to bolt for the door. It's time to leave. Bear is fast. I've played fetch with him. Watched him catch rabbits and mice and small squealing things out in the backyard. He would catch me and those fangs would tear a hole right through my leg muscle, and I'd be done. There's no one around. My nearest neighbor is at least a 5-minute walk away. Bear sits down at his seat again. Set, he tells me. I do as I'm told. Stay. This would be funny if I wasn't about to piss myself. He tells me what he wants. He wants steaks, daily. And he wants to try other foods too. He says he gets to choose the television shows. He wants me to quit my job so I can stay home and serve him. He wants to go out and search for suitable territory to expand into. He wants to hunt, and to teach me to hunt. He wants to perhaps acquire a few females with sufficient breeding prospects. He will not tolerate anything less, and, of course, he wants to take advantage of this newfound awakening he's experienced. If you don't comply, I'm afraid I'll have to rid myself of you and find another pack member. Then he does something that I will never forget. He shifts himself in the chair and lifts his hind leg, exposing his balls. Oh God. No. Not right now. He travels south, body twisting into a contortionist position, and he cleans himself at the fucking kitchen table. This continues for a few moments. I look to the door. It's about 10 steps away, past Bear. No obstacles, just clean floor all the way. I look back at Bear. He's not paying me much attention, so whilst he's preoccupied, I don't wait. I take my chance, bolting for the door. I can feel him behind me. He's so much faster than you'd think a dog of his bulk would be. I feel his breath on the back of my neck as I throw open the door and slip through. I slam it shut behind me and he slams into it as it shuts. I can hear him barking furiously. He throws himself against the door once, twice, 3 times. He tries the knob, but while he can maneuver kitchen utensils, it seems the knob is too round and slippery for his paws. John! 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 The barks are deep, angry. They continue as I lock the door and make for my car. I can't remember if any of the doors are open. I don't think they are, but I'm not waiting around to find out. As I haul ass down the road, I realize I've forgotten my phone. That's fine. The police station is only 15 minutes away. My house fades into late autumn dusk. Windows still glowing.